Gosh, I'm so sorry, everybody. I am starting late. Zoom did an update yesterday and it really messed me up because I could not set up the stream in the same way that I did yesterday. Okay, I don't know if the beginning of this got cut off because Zoom is being a punk this morning. So I appreciate your patience. As I was saying, I think it might have gotten cut off, but what I was saying is Zoom did an update last night that really messed me up because suddenly my ability to stream seemed like it was just gone. So I'm very sorry I'm launching a little bit late this morning. I'm gonna set up my live streams inside of the subscriber hub, and then let's get into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. We are in day 5 of our boot camp today. And we're going to talk all about becoming burnout proof, what this means, how do we bring everything together. And I'm going to be giving you a lot of stories, a lot of examples from my life, from the lives of my clients about what it means to take everything we've talked about this week and bring it all together. So before we do that, though, I want to talk a little bit about the day 1 through 4. First and foremost, welcome back. We are in day 5 today of this boot camp, and I would love to know whether you share in the comments, in just emails after the fact. If you are watching this as a replay, I would love to know what's been your biggest takeaway so far, because we have talked about all the things. We have talked about the sustainable success framework. We have talked about what the specific steps are in the framework. We've talked about sustainable systems, sustainable self-care, sustainable mindset. And I want to share with you some of the takeaways I've been emailed. But before I do, highly recommend, if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, scan this QR code and register for this boot camp. You're not only going to receive all of the replays, you're going to receive bonuses, you're going to receive reminders. Though this is the second to last day of our boot camp today, you're also going to maintain access to these recordings moving forward. So highly recommend you register. Scan this guy right here and you'll be taken to a page where you can register. But I want to highlight some of the homework highlights that I've been sent. Firstly, this one, what aspects of your business and your life do you struggle to keep sustainable? This one's from Amber. Over the past year, I've made it a sincere effort to focus the entire year on recovery, which for me includes physical, emotional, mental, community, and social health. This means daily, the bare minimum is getting outside for one extra long walk with the dogs, but 6 days a week, I expect to walk the dogs. And in addition, a 10 to 45-minute HIIT class to keep me sane and see my friends. Love this. I love how much you're pouring into yourself. I'm curious because I know you sent this to me prior to sustainable self-care. I'd love to know, do you feel like this is a self-care pattern that's sustainable for you? But I love hearing this feedback. This is what it's about. I literally posted on Instagram yesterday. We've got to make sure we're pouring into us as much, if not more, than we're pouring into our jobs. And so I love seeing that you're pouring into yourself this much. Somebody also commented on YouTube, this is perfect timing. I can feel burnout already starting, and I'm just heading into my peak season. We just purchased a second campground. So between the two and running a snack shack, on one, getting them up and going by May 15th alone, having my hubby, but he handles the yard. I'm overwhelmed. I need to hire. It's in the process. So great to have this workshop. I'll actually listen to it again. Now I'm going to listen to the first time. Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really good point, because we are, you might have felt like this week's been a little bit of a fire hose, and perhaps it has for you. I've been throwing a lot at you, but I want to show you the depth of what we have available to us when it comes to creating sustainable self-care, when it comes to creating, sustainable systems in our life. And I kind of changed tomorrow's game plan. Today's kind of the one we've been building up to, but I kind of changed tomorrow's game plan because I want to give you a little bit more of a sneak peek into the systems behind what you're probably going to need to run your business. And I'm really excited about this because I just did a podcast interview with somebody who has 30 some years of business coaching experience. And we riffed off of what are the systems that every business owner needs. So that's probably what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I've kind of kept it as a little bit of a TBD, a little bit of an open-ended, but definitely know with this, there is no expectation. I'm probably going to say this a lot today. There's no expectation that every single part of this you're going to implement over the course of the next week, over the course of the next month. And I think that's something that you probably need to keep in mind and realize as well. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. Definitely keep in mind, these are just a couple of the comments I got, but sharing is caring. Like, do you know anybody who needs the content that we're talking about, that has been running themselves into the ground lately, that could probably do with some better or just more systems in their business and in their life? And if you do, send this to them. Send this their way, because this might be exactly what they need. So again, some housekeeping things. I'm not going to remind you about how important this content is today because today is kind of a bring it all together day. But there are three ways to access the replay. As I've already said, you can access them inside of the subscriber hub. That's my recommendation because it includes the bonus resources as well as a way to get in touch with me and get your questions answered. There's also a LinkedIn replay, a YouTube live stream. The content will be removed on Friday, April 26th, so you don't have a ton of time to catch up on it. Highly recommend, though, that you check out those different ways to stream this because I know not everybody can show up on Zoom. So, our agenda for today is first and foremost, we're going to talk about how you can use what we've talked about to become burnout proof. We're going to bring it all together. We're going to recap it as well. So if you have missed any day and you're like, shoot, I need to go back and watch this, we're going to recap, on a high level, the different things that we've talked about and all the stuff that we've covered this week. I'll also be covering the scholarship winner. So who won the scholarship? I'm also going to be doing a huge announcement and a limited time offer today. I'm also going to be talking about burnout best practices for solopreneurs and former side hustlers, kind of through the lens of some of the stories that I'm going to be telling about my own experiences and those of some of my clients. And I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes of a brand new program that I really, if you are a burned out business owner, that's really going to benefit you. So first, let's talk about what does it mean to be burnout proof? I feel like this is a really important place for us to start because this whole idea of being burnout proof, firstly, I just loved how it sounded. I loved the notion of, you know, there's songs about being bulletproof, all of this stuff, but I wanted more and more and more I did this work. I want us to get to the point where we are burnout proof, where our lives are built to prevent burnout from occurring. And there are definitely going to be seasons where there's going to be seasons of stress. There's going to be seasons of busy. There's going to be seasons of sacrifice and times when we're going to have a lot on our plate. But overarchingly, especially for high achievers and high performers, especially for high achievers and high performers who are entrepreneurs and who have businesses, we've got to build lives and lifestyles that stave off burnout, that prevent burnout from really taking hold in our lives. And burnout is a spectrum. There might be situations where you have a mild amount of burnout in your life. That's okay. That's going to happen. But what burnout proof means is the burnout never gets so bad that it really negatively impacts your life. You never get to the point in the burnout cycle where you break down, where you have to completely remove yourself from your business, remove yourself from the situations. Being burnout proof is not about not ever having stress because we do want stress. Stress is adaptive. Stress is a good thing. It allows us to perform better, to, create better systems so that we can take on more. Stress is actually a good thing. It's adaptive. So it's not about an absence of stress, but it is about an absence of burnout. And burnout is ultimately chronic stress. We don't want the stress to get so bad, to get so overwhelming that it negatively impacts our lives, our health, our relationships, our motivation, our vision for where we're going in this life. That is really what it means to become burnout proof. But I think another big side of becoming burnout proof is embracing the fact that you are human, that you are going to have limitations, that it's okay for you to slow down, that it's okay for you to have a lazy day or a lazy night in. That I think is a big aspect of becoming burnout proof for a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of the people that I speak to. We, for lack of a better way to say it, we suck at slowing down. I recorded a podcast earlier this week where that is what I talked about how I've been refining and kind of trying to redefine what my own burnout baseline is. And that's about recognizing that I do tend to struggle with the slowdown. It feels uncomfortable. It makes me anxious to slow down. But you know what? I've gotten so much better over the years. And I think that's another part of becoming burnout proof is accepting that slow is not bad, accepting that slow is not toxic, and that slow and those moments of slowdown in our life are necessary. So that is what it means to become burnout proof. And that is what all of these things that we're talking about today culminate in creating. So to help paint this picture, I want to talk a little bit about what this looked like for me. We've got some very old pictures of Ellen here. The top picture, I was 24, I think. The bottom picture, I was about 26. Got some very, very old pictures because how this looked for me is if you don't know my story, we're really getting into the behind the scenes of my story today. I thought I was going to be Dr. Ellen. About 10 years ago, I was well on that path. I was in a top tier PhD program at one of the top public universities in the nation. I was on track. I had had multiple publications at that time. In a lot of ways, life was good. There wasn't anything bad about the direction that my life was going in. And for a lot of respects, I've always been that high achiever. I've always been really good at checking boxes and doing everything that I quote unquote should do. And I've been somebody who's been perpetually busy ever since I was a teen. Like, how many of us that resonates with you? You've been busy since you were a teenager. And I've said it multiple times this week. I think for a lot of us and for a lot of the people I work with, we are breaking decades worth of bad habits. We are trying to overcome patterns and behaviors and habits and mindsets that we have developed since we were teens. But that worked. That worked for me to be that high achiever, to check boxes all the time. I bet it's worked for you too. It worked for me until it didn't. I feel like every person who was like that, who's been like that since they were a teenager, at some point hits a wall. And for me, I was really on this kind of hamster wheel, trying to keep up in graduate school and all of the things that I was committed to. To paint the picture, I like to say I was in 90% AP classes when I was in high school. I was in choir, musical theater. I was on varsity soccer. I also played on a club soccer team. That was high school. In college, I remember vividly fall of my senior year of college. I was taking 400 level science classes. I was working 20 hours a week in a lab. I was TAing. I was assistant soccer coaching. My relationship actually ended that fall purely because I feel like he just didn't get my lifestyle. I was too busy for him, frankly. And then when I was in graduate school, I did it all over again. When I was in graduate school, I didn't just do a PhD, I did a master's PhD simultaneously, which don't get me wrong, I loved. I did a dual degree. I was in a sketch comedy group. I played on multiple intramural soccer teams. I started a side business spring of my first year of my PhD program. You can kind of see how it was a pattern that continued. And I'm sure you've been like that too. But I hit a wall when I realized that I was trying so hard to keep up with all of these things, and in a lot of ways, I was numbing, frankly, from the fact that I didn't feel like I was on the right path. And it was exhausting. And I knew that something needed to change. And it took me 2.5 years to finally decide, okay, I need to leave my PhD. And I wasn't close to actually getting my PhD. I always have people ask me that, like, did you get the PhD? And when I tell them when I dropped out, they're like, but you were so close. No, I wasn't. I was looking at easily 3 more years inside of my PhD program. I was not close. So I dropped out of my PhD and I kind of left my entire professional life in the dust. And I frankly made burnout my business. Up until that point, I had described myself as a burned out doctoral student. But the funny thing is, it never registered to me that doing work on myself, doing burnout work on myself was the thing that I needed. That took a little bit more time. And that might sound scary to quit your entire professional life. And this is actually a phrase that one of my good friends and former clients uses as well, that she quit her life. But I feel like that's the point a lot of us get to when we are at this point, when we are at wit's end, which is another phrase you're going to hear me use a lot today. It's scary, but we get to the point where we just can't deal anymore. And I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that it wasn't scary. It was, but I knew I needed something different. I knew I needed a complete lifestyle change. I knew I needed to leave behind the things that weren't working for me anymore. And in a lot of ways, I needed to swap the stress and the overwork and the hustling for a life that finally felt like mine. But that is actually not where the story ends. And I think this is something that's important to know. I traded lab experiments for life experiments, yes. And in a lot of ways, the former scientist is still in me because I experiment a lot. I ask my clients to, gather data from their lives. All of that is still an important part of how I approach this. I'm very evidence-based in how I coach, but coaching and going into entrepreneurship didn't fix things for me. And I think this is a thing that a lot of entrepreneurs need to know going in, that you're not suddenly going to fix your lifestyle and fix how burned out you feel by pursuing your own business. It might help because it might be more fulfilling than the work that you were doing in the past, but it's not necessarily going to fix everything. Because for me, what happened is this. Business owner life was an absolute freaking whirlwind because I realized they don't teach business and biology programs. I had no idea what I was doing and I crashed and burned again. I found myself as overwhelmed and as burned out by my new business as I did by everything else, especially because I was battling imposter syndrome. I constantly felt like I wasn't good enough. I was working to compensate. I was trying to balance, my day job with dating, with, my health, with my friends and family relationships, with my hobbies. Like, this is why I say to this day, we are never just working on one thing, right? We are all balancing all the things. And then for a lot of high achievers, we are overworking to compensate for the fact that we feel like imposters and we feel like we're not good enough. I feel like the Italian side of me is in full form right now because I am talking with my hands like crazy. But I didn't know what to do to find my footing as a business owner. And it was a really, really challenging period. So I did what I do best. I've always kind of approached it this way. I did what I do best and I researched the shit out of burnout and stress. And that is ultimately what I built my business around. I've been working on this stuff for myself for 10 years now. I've been working on this stuff as a part of my business for 5. And that is kind of where I've gotten to teach you what I have learned. And some of the things that have happened and some of the things that I've had to experiment about and test is I stopped fixating so much on accomplishments. Trust me when I say, I was talking to my friend about this last night. It's really hard for me to turn competitive Ellen off. This might resonate with some of you. I still get that, that dopamine from accomplishments and from feeling like I've done well. Abso-freaking-lutely. But I feel like I've loosened up my definition of what success means for me. And I don't fixate nearly as much on my accomplishments. And I focus a lot more on how things feel. Focus a lot more on the journey as opposed to the result. And that is super not how I used to be. So it's still a work in progress. I constantly am fighting against my high achiever tendencies, but there's a lot of reprogramming that's happened. I also had habits that became less about doing all the things, and we talked about this in sustainable self-care, and more about doing the things that filled me up. I no longer beat myself up anymore if I don't work out 6 days a week. I no longer beat myself up anymore if my morning routine doesn't look like a carbon copy of itself every single morning. I give myself what I need and I pour into myself in the ways that make the most sense. I also created a lifestyle that could keep me inspired and fulfilled and sustain me through the tough times because best believe there have been some tough times in business. I didn't really make a profit the first couple years. I am not somebody, and I feel like this is an important part of my story and how I approach coaching and business. Sometimes it's not about making $100,000 or making six figures plus your very first year. Sometimes it's just about surviving that first year. Very few business owners, I feel like those are the stories we hear all the time, but I want to normalize the fact that very, very few business owners are going to make that the first year. And if you are looking for a coach that's going to help you do that, first of all, I'm not a business coach, so I'm probably not the person to help you with that, but that's not me. That wasn't my experience in business. And I frankly think it's an experience in business that needs to be normalized more, that it's okay if you don't make your first, 6 figures the very first year you're in business. I didn't even make a profit, but I survived my first year in business and I'm still here 4 years later. So I ditched the late nights, the weekends, and actually started creating a life outside of my achievements. And, I credit one of my former clients who I actually worked with her for a period of time as well for helping me realize that as much as I wanted this, I could not work 7 days a week, that was not sustainable for me. You're going to hear her story in just a second because we did work together as well to help her with burnout and help her find that fulfillment as well. But she was an instrumental part of my story and my journey and me realizing that I could not grind 24/7. That was running me into the ground. And if I did that, I wouldn't be here anymore to talk about my business. I would have gone back to having a 9 to 5 if that was my story. And it's just not. And I also got crystal clear on what the non-negotiables were in my life and what the excess was in my life. It's been a very, very interesting journey to realize that sometimes the things that people tell you you have to do to be successful, sometimes those things are more non-negotiable, especially because it's so damn personal. So this is a bit about my story. So 10 years ago, burned out doctoral student, and now I am in a top tier PhD program, and now I am a coach. I'm the #1 burnout coach on Google. I'm a speaker. I have multiple businesses. I've scaled a side business as a coach and a speaker while working full time. And that was my light bulb moment, was when I was leaving graduate school, when I was, first new in my business, is realizing burnout doesn't have to be the mode at which you operate. Burnout is a choice and you can choose differently. And that is what I teach you how to do. I leveraged better systems. I leaned into mindset work. I transformed my relationship with self-care and movement. I stepped down from a leadership role to publicly focus on my business. I was on track to I was one of the top leaders in my day job company. And I left to focus on my business and I replaced my full-time income while working part-time. That is my story. That is who I am. But it wasn't just me. I want to give you a couple highlights of some clients that I've worked with, some of who've chosen to stay anonymous, some of whom are very open with their stories. This is Karen. Karen Shiro. She is a realtor out of the DC metro area. And we worked together last year. And I am so grateful for this testimonial she gave. Ellen is an absolute gift sent to me when I need her most as a busy entrepreneur, which I'm sure a lot of you are. I've spent a decade running at full speed and likely in burnout for several of those years. Think about that. I'm sure a lot of you have been burned out for several years, maybe several of the past and most recent years. As a mom and a wife, also finding the balance in work and home life has been a struggle. Ellen really helped me to get some routines set that helped me prioritize my time and values. And some of the things Ellen had me do seemed so simple, yet I just wasn't able to see that without her help. This is, I think, the beauty of working with somebody like me. And, the beauty of working with a coach as opposed to a doctor is a coach can help you find those patterns. A coach can help you make those lifestyle changes that a doctor may just not have the time to help you make. For Karen, it really was about simple lifestyle shifts. And I do believe that that is one of the best ways to recover from burnout is making those simple lifestyle shifts over time. Simply doing some, not all, just some of the things that we've talked about this week can help you get to the point where you start to burnout proof your life. And it's not going to necessarily be a week-long translation like we or transition like we've spent this week, or even a month long, or maybe even a 3 month long. But over the course of time, your life is going to shift. She said, I'm so grateful for her and her skill set, and I would and have highly recommended her. Burnout is real, and Ellen will help you dig your way out to live a more fulfilling life. So thank you for that, for Karen. And she's, last time I talked to her, she is still thriving. Same with this client as well. This client did choose to remain anonymous, but this client, I want to give you a little context for this client's story. This client came to me actually in early 2020, right as COVID was ramping up, the time when we all thought it was going to be over in a month. That's about when me and this client started working together. This is a client who is not necessarily an entrepreneur. She was in the corporate world, but she had been living a life that, frankly, I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to. She had been grinding probably 80+ hour weeks for years, working for a boss that was micromanaging her and constantly asking for more, which, as entrepreneurs, we are that boss. We are the boss that is maybe not micromanaging, but constantly asking ourselves for more if you are a business owner and an entrepreneur. And by the time she came to me, she was just about to go on stress leave for 6 weeks. It had gotten that bad. And during that time, we reframed her thoughts and her mindset around self-care. We figured out what her values were, which I've talked about multiple times this week. And we, just like with Karen, started making microscopic shifts in her life to start giving her a life back and help giving her boundaries that she could reinforce. And I will say with this person, when she went back to work, were her boundaries perfect? Nope, far from it. And that was something we had to navigate as well. The fact that you might have this perfect picture of your boundaries in your head, but to go from perfect picture to application, it's probably not going to translate perfectly. And sometimes we need that help. We need that support. We need that person to carry us forward to help us figure out how to navigate that transition, how to go from idea to actual application of our boundaries. And her and I did that a lot together. So this is her testimonial. I wouldn't be where I am now without you. And actually, last I talked to her, her dream had been to buy a cottage in the English countryside, like literally like the holiday style. And she just did that. She's constantly on vacation. She's constantly traveling while still having her work and her profession. She says you have to put your oxygen mask on first. That was her biggest takeaway from our coaching program. That's the biggest thing I learned. Before coaching, I was exhausted, emotional, and at my wit's end. You would have no idea how often clients come in and their onboarding forms and they use the phrase at wit's end. So if that feels like you, and literally, if you don't know what even at wit's end means, at wit's end means you are puzzled, you are perplexed, you are confused, you don't know what to do. Maybe you've tried every possible source without success and you don't feel like there's any other options for you. That is what at wit's end feels like. That's what she was in. The word no wasn't a part of my vocabulary. Thank you, Ellen. I wouldn't be where I am without you. Her testimony was much longer than this, but I shortened it. I also want to shout out my client, some former client, very good friend. I've also worked with her as well. She is a very, very, very good at what she does, Nicole Hudson. Nicole is an entrepreneur. She's also a corporate consultant. She does a lot of consulting work. And when she came to me, she was in the thick of a burnout spiral that just kept recurring. She was burning out. I don't think it was quite every 3 months, but it was about every 6 months, 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, that she would see this recurrent burnout occur in her life. And we did tons of mindset work with her. We did tons of emotional processing, journaling, figuring out her values, and really starting to get clear on who she was outside of her professional accomplishments. She was the person who I commiserated with about the whole quit your life thing. After we worked together, she said this experience was well worth the investment in myself. Ellen has a wealth of knowledge and is continuously learning new techniques and does a great job of picking up patterns, pushing you to dig one level deeper while supporting you through the emotional tides. This is an important part of working with a coach because no matter who you are, even myself, we all have blind spots. We all have things we don't notice about ourselves. We all have patterns that we don't realize. I had another client that I worked with this past fall who heard the thing that she didn't realize is, and I mentioned it when we were talking about values, she didn't show up anywhere in her values. Her values were all about other people. And we wouldn't have spotted that if it weren't for our work together, because together we were able to find that pattern, to pull that out, and to realize that was something that was missing for her. So it is not just me. So, can you imagine for yourself, because this is what it looks like to create a burnout proof life? Can you imagine for yourself what it would mean to cut down on work hours without cutting revenue, to confidently set the boundaries you need without guilt or shame, to get more done in less time because your systems are doing so much of the work for you, to not live according to the next launch or client deliverable or the next thing on your to-do list because you have shifted your mindset and your values and the thing that you are working toward away from the constant hustle of to-do lists and accomplishment. You're enjoying the journey instead of just the results that the journey bring you. What would it feel like? And can you imagine to have a life of working and doing less, slowing down and living more? That is the whole tagline of my business. I want to help you work less and live more. And can you imagine being fully present in those real life moments? The moment for me when I realized, damn, I really do need to go full time in my job, to in my business, to give myself more freedom and to step down to part time in my day job was the moment that for the second year in a row, I wasn't able to go trick or treating with my nephews. That honestly was such a turning point for me of realizing I can't do this anymore. I am missing out on life. And part of the reason why I dropped out of my PhD was because I was missing out on life. And I don't want my business to become that either. We don't want to trade our 9 to 5 for 24/7. And yet that's what so many of us as business owners and entrepreneurs are doing. So, to recap now, that is what it looks like to create a burnout proof life. So, what I want to do now is I want to bring everything that we have talked about this week into it. We have talked this week about sustainable success, sustainable systems, sustainable self care, sustainable mindset. And the whole reason we're talking about that is we need the ability to maintain or exceed what we have going on in our life, and not just in our finances or in our business, in our very health, in our very relationships. It's about having sustainability across the board. That is really what sustainability means to me. And to help us do this, we talked about the sustainable success framework, sustainable systems, sustainable self-care, and sustainable mindset. And in each of these, in sustainable system, we talked about how we have bajillion things being thrown at us every day and how our systems need to help us wrangle the chaos. This is step one in this process because I feel like the biggest hang up for a lot of us is A, we need some momentum into this process, but B, our systems aren't working for us. This is about working smarter, not harder. That is what sustainable success is. And in this section, I know we covered a lot in this section. We talked about what sustainable systems are. We talked about productivity styles. We talked about all-in-one versus targeted systems. We talked about second brains. We talked about templates, workflows. We talked about creating a CEO schedule. We talked about automations. We talked about sustainable content creation and sustainable offers. You're going to see a little bit more about this tomorrow in the bonus lesson that I have tomorrow. And these are all things that sorry, I didn't mean to move ahead. These are all things that we need to create sustainable systems. And I pointed out that we need them, but what we didn't have time to get into this week is the how we go about creating them. We got into that a little bit in terms of figuring out whether you're an all-in-one versus a system suite kind of person. But we didn't talk about what it means to create second brains or templates or workflows, what the how of that actually look like. Yes, we know we need this, but what does the how look like? That's going to come later. So then the other thing we talked about is sustainable self-care, because once you've got your systems in place, we need to get you back your energy. And that is what consistent self-care does. But it's about realizing that sustainable self-care isn't just sustaining you through everything on your plate. That's part of it. Your self-care in and of itself has to be sustainable. We have to be able to maintain the self-care we're asking of ourselves. It's not about having a 5-hour self-care routine every single day, because for most of us, that's too much. That is not something we can sustain. So we talked this week about what is sustainable self-care, the 5 types of self-care, true versus false relaxation, the 9 types of rest, routines and how those routines might fit or fit around your productivity style. We talked about ways to reset your routines, how to adapt your routines for your season, which I had that comment I showed earlier, that resonated with so many of you, of how your routine might not be the same from season to season and how much that's okay. We talked about airplane mentality. We talked about experimenting with your routines. And again, These are all things that you're going to experiment with and figure out over time. You might not be able to reset your routine in a week. It's going to take some time to do that. And you might need some accountability to help you do that. We also talked about sustainable mindset. If you are in a burnout cycle, like Nicole was, but your self care and your systems are fine. Like when Nicole and I were meeting, she actually had pretty solid self care, and she's a systems nerd like I am. So she really didn't need a lot with her systems. So we need to address the mindset aspects that were perpetuating the burnout in her life, that were leading her to be in that burnout cycle. Your mindset is key because there are going to be tough times in business. That is just a fact of the matter. There are going to be tough times in business. And what a sustainable mindset is about creating the mindset that's going to carry you through those tough times. So, in relation to this, we talked about what it means to build a sustainable mindset, high achiever mindsets that commonly lead to burnout. I would love to know how many of you were like, yep, 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 that's me as we were going through those mindsets, because I definitely am recovering from a lot of those. Important questions to ask to build a sustainable mindset: how to find your values, how to build up your boundaries, passive boundaries that you might set to start getting the ball rolling with the boundaries you need in your life, and also self compassion and burnout, and why that is such a stupidly important part of recovering from burnout. So, this is, oops, I didn't mean to change that slide already, but with that, that is the recap of our week. And now we are on to me giving you a sneak peek into something that's really going to help. And as we move into that, I want to announce our scholarship winner, Amber Stutzman. Amber, thank you so much for submitting your homework. I really appreciate it. I did a random raffle and you were our winner. So don't forget to reach out to me to get your scholarship into the Burnout-Proof Business Mini Mind program that's going to be coming up. I know you and I had actually already been emailing about how you wanted to get into this, but didn't know if you could. So I'm so grateful that you are a winner. Please reach out to me. I'm very, very excited to see you inside of Burnout-Proof Business. And for those of you who are wondering, what the heck program am I talking about here? I am launching a very new program and I want to give you a little bit of a window into it. So let's talk a little bit about this program. So I have a question for you before we get into this. Knowing what you know now, knowing all of these components of sustainable success, knowing what it takes to build sustainable success, what I would love to know is, are you excited? Are you excited about the possibility of creating sustainable success in your own life? Through systems, through self-care, through mindset? Do you see a path forward? Because I feel like that is what this week was about for me, is showing you that there is a path forward out of feeling so damn burned out all the time. And if you are excited for this, I have something that I am super excited to share with you and to let you know about. And that is, oopsies. But before I do share about that, I want to let you know that you have two options at this point. You can do this work alone. I did do this work alone. It took me a freaking long time, but I did do this work alone. Or what you can do is we can do it together. And that is where I have an invitation for you. I am going to be launching a brand new program, like I've said, that teaches you all of this content that we've talked about this week on an in-depth level to help you burnout proof your business. And this program, not only is it brand new, but this first group of people that's going to be in this program are going to help me co-create what you really feel like you need. I have, like, literally, you should see, actually, I'm going to share it with you because, and again, don't mind my Notion, and I'm still getting used to it too. I've been switching to dark mode because my eyes have been very tired. But this is all the stuff that I have mapped out for this program, for all of the different things that we could talk about. I have been brain dumping and building this program and figuring out what it looks like for like 6 months now. And I am so excited to finally put it out there into the world. And what I can share with you about this program, and what I'm so excited to promise you about this program, is frankly, Burnout Proof Business is going to be the only burnout management course out there that is specifically designed for coaches, service providers, and solopreneurs to show you exactly how to create sustainable success in your current or future business. Again, you don't have to have a business right now. Maybe you're curious about starting the business in the future. Maybe you just need the sustainable systems part of this process. But not only is it the only program out there that I know of that is specifically designed for business owners around burnout management, it is evidence-based and it is an efficient way to give you back your time, your energy, and your sanity. If you want to start running your business instead of letting your business run you, that is what this program is designed to support you with. So what is included in this program? What you will experience. Firstly, you will experience accountability-led step-by-step on-demand training on the sustainable success framework specifically tailored for small business owners like you. This is content that is literally designed for a business owner. So when I talk about systems, I'm going to be talking about systems for businesses. When I talk about, I'm going to be talking about content creation because frankly, we're the only people who have to worry about that. The everyday person, unless they're a content creator, might not have to worry about that. So we're going to be talking about all of these things specifically through the lens of small business. And I'm going to be talking about all of the different lifestyle habits that I have learned and organized over the years, specifically through the lens of small business owners. There's also going to be weekly live coaching, 60 to 90 minutes, probably more on 90-minute because I'm a chatty human of coaching each week, and a private coaching community where you can not only, get support, but you're going to be able to network with other business owners like yourself. And honestly, having been in a number of programs like these, that's an invaluable part of this process because sometimes we may not know the question that we need to ask, but somebody else asks it and we're like, shit, that applies to me too. That is what this is about. So that is what you're going to experience inside of this program. You're also going to get access to this 8-week curriculum. And in this 8-week curriculum, we're going to be talking about things like sustainable schedule, what it looks like to design your week, what it looks like to create sustainable boundaries that support your week, the 9 steps for getting into flow, how to create check-in and check-out routines for yourself so that you feel like you can open and close the book to your workday, that you're not constantly bringing work, especially that kind of constantly brain spinning feeling. So you're constantly not walking around with that. We're also going to dive deeper into master calendars. We're also going to be talking about sustainable systems. We're going to talk about your technology suite. We're going to talk about how do you build a second brain, especially in Notion, because Notion is my specialty. So if you are a Notion user or you want to be to create a second brain, I got you. I can hook you up with that. We're going to talk about entrepreneur system must-haves and how to start building them. We're going to talk about business workflows, leveraging templates, automations 101, gearing up to hire and how to create SOPs, all of these things. Basically, everything I talked about, what you need this week, we're going to get into how you need it. We talk about systems. We're going to talk about sustainable self-care, your support systems and the importance of those, emotional processing, sleep best practices, creating self-care schedules, protecting your peace and making space for time off and for rest. We're going to talk about sustainable offers. How much is too much in your offer suite? Passive versus recurring income, business seasonality, and do you have that in your business? Boundaries with clients. We're going to talk a lot about that. And we're also going to talk about multiple streams of fulfillment and how important that is. And honestly, this is probably just scratching the surface in what you're going to get. We're also going to talk about sustainable marketing, launch schedules, sustainable content creation, marketing simplified, and sustainable marketing practices, lead management, and follow up. These are all things that I am not a marketing professional, but I have a number of people who I'm going to be bringing in to help with this side of things because they have a lot of insights to share. And I'm really, really grateful for them for donating their time and their expertise. So this is going to be a fun one where we're going to be able to get some outside perspectives. We're also going to be talking about sustainable mindset, identifying and defining your values. If you don't know what your values are, I do have a mini course, but we're going to talk about that inside of this program. And I do very much think for a lot of service providers and coaches and solopreneurs, your business values are probably not super different than your personal values. So we're going to be talking about that. I love talking about values. I'm very excited for that. We're also going to talk about how to take your values and craft your mission and your vision. We're going to talk about whose opinion matters in your business. We're going to talk about self-compassion. We're going to take it a step further, really start talking about the practices for self-compassion and what having a self-compassion mindset looks like on the day-to-day, the week-to-week. And we're going to talk about how to build unshakable confidence in your business. So this entire 8-week curriculum is a total value of $2,000, but this isn't just where we're going to stop. We are also going to dive into some other things together. But I want to, before we get into those other things, just highlight the fact that I am not special. I am somebody who is just like you. I'm not a doctor. I am an everyday human. If you are somebody who's new to business, I am not a natural entrepreneur. I am somebody who had to put in the time to figure out a method that works. I've taught it to others, so I know it works. And I'm going to show you how to do the exact same things. This is not something that only applies to a certain subset of people. This is something that can be applicable to any entrepreneur out there, to any solopreneur, any service provider out there. So not only will you get that $2,000 Burnout-Proof business curriculum, we are also, as I said, going to have interactive live coaching. So 60 to 90 minutes, probably more like 90-minute coaching sessions every single week to really guide you through this process. And then I'm also beginning to give you access to a resource library. This resource library is literally going to be chock full of any bonus trainings that I do. Anytime people ask me, oh, how do I do this in Notion? How do I build this? All of that is going to be funneled into the resource library. This is something that I've actually already actively been building for probably a year and a half now inside of my members club, and I'm going to give you guys access to it as well. So total value of $6,000 for this program. And I'm not going to be charging anywhere near that. You can join and be a part of the, launch of this program, this group program for 4 payments of $397 or for pay in full of $1397, which is going to save you almost $200. And when you do that, you're going to get the Burnout-Proof business curriculum, which is digestible videos that are going to be dripped to you over the course of the program, action steps and companion worksheets for each of the lessons, lifetime access to that curriculum. And then you will also have access to those weekly live coaching with me. And also, when I bring in guest experts, you're going to have access to that. You're going to have access to my resource library. You're going to have access to a supportive network of a supportive community, of fellow high achieving women who are business owners, who are entrepreneurially curious, who are, in the same boat you are, feeling overwhelmed, feeling at wit's end, and looking for that path out and that strategy out. And you can learn from them, you can grow with them. I think the community aspect of this is going to be one of the best parts. So scan the QR code here to learn more. Or if you are somebody who hates doing things on your phone like I do, go ahead and head to coachellen.com/BPB hashtag pricing, or you can just go to coachellen.com/BPB to learn more about the program and see the pricing options down below. And actually, as I'm saying that, again, one woman show here, and I had technical issues this morning, so I'm feeling like I'm a little bit behind. I need to actually activate it so that if you are interested in joining, you can join us, but I haven't done that yet. So give me a hot second to activate the purchase. Once you do, if you do decide to join, once you do join, then all of that stuff is already set up. But I need to activate the link, and it is Squarespace is being done. So, but there are, as you kind of check that out, as you learn more about that, I talked about there's going to be bonuses, and there's probably some of you have been chomping at the bit to hear the bonuses. So what are those bonuses? For the next 24 hours, if you join, you're going to get 2 45-minute one-on-one calls with me to onboard and offboard you from the program. This is something that, typically my one-on-one calls run $300 a piece plus. So this is definitely something that's very high value, going to give you that very personalized support. So that's one bonus, but you're also going to get access to my values, boundaries, and burnout proof life courses and my suite of Notion templates. So all of these things are things that are going to be accessible for you when you join in the next 24 hours. I have tons of people. If you're somebody who wants Notion to be a big part of your business systems, this is definitely going to be something that's of benefit to you, because those Notion templates, like my business systems are basically my ultimate Notion digital planner. Like, those are my business systems. So if that is something that you feel like that you need, that you feel like you want, you're definitely going to want to get in on that. Absolutely. Also, I'm an amazing multitasker apparently, because I was able to get this guy pulled up and saved so that you can join now if you want. The sign up button is actually there. So these are the bonuses, those 45-minute one-on-one coaching, onboarding, and offboarding calls for the program, access to all of these courses if you sign up in the next 24 hours. And a quick baseline to measure, maybe you're kind of thinking about this and you're like, cool, this sounds great, but I don't really know if I need this. This is how we can know to measure where you are going and how you feel about your ability to get there. And if you need the support that's going to be offered inside of this program. So here's what I would ask yourself. And actually, I want to rephrase these, and I'm going to put these into yes, no questions. You can score yourself, absolutely, but let's put these into some yes, no questions here. So instead of I am happy with the amount of balance I have in my life right now, ask yourself, are you? Are you happy with the amount of balance you have? Actually, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to go ahead and completely stop my share, and I'm going to update this slide for us so that I can change these questions, because I think this is a better way to do this. Instead of, scoring yourself, let's do this this way. Are you happy with the amount of balance you have in your life right now? That's question number 1. Yes or no? Are you happy with the amount of balance you have in your life? Question number 2, are your systems helping to keep you organized, calm, and collected? Yes or no? Question number 3, do you take care of yourself in a way that you are proud of? That's question number 3. So yes or no, do you take care of yourself in a way that you are proud of? And this is not, as I said when we were talking about self-care, separate this from weight loss. It's not about weight loss. It's not being about at the weight you want to be at. It is, are you taking care of yourself in a way that you are proud of? Might even be, are you taking care of your family and your friends and your relationships in a way that you are proud of? Um, so then question number 4, do you believe you're making yourself a priority? Do you believe that you're making yourself a priority? Yes or no? Question number 5, do you feel like you have a solid mindset in your business and your life? Do you feel like you have a sustainable mindset that is going to carry you through the tough times in your business and your life? Yes or no? And then last but not least, do you feel like you're clear on your values and your vision for your life? Yes or no? If you answered no to any of these questions, there is a space for this. There's a space for improvement. There is a place where you can benefit from the content we're going to be going over in this program, whether it was about your systems, about the amount of balance, whether it's about taking care of yourself and your family and your relationships and your loved ones in a way that you're proud of. If you answered no to any of these questions, this program can be of benefit to you. So again, these bonuses are going to only last through Saturday. So that is going to include those bonus courses. That is going to include those 2 one-on-one coaching sessions to onboard you and to offboard you. All of those things are going to be included through Saturday evening. And then the entire course enrollment will close on Tuesday. I'm only going to be opening up 10 spots for this. So if they all go in the next 24 hours, unfortunately, probably going to be out of luck. I'm only opening up 10 spots because I really want to make sure we are building a program that is what we all really hears and listens to the things that we need to support us in our businesses. And having too many people in that is not going to allow for that. So we're only going to have 10 spots open. The closes on Tuesday altogether, but these bonuses, again, are only available through Saturday. So with that, that is all I have got for you all today. I'm going to be monitoring. I'm going to be heading on over to LinkedIn, heading on over to YouTube, heading on over to the forum to check out if anybody's got any questions. So if you do have any questions, please, please, please post those questions on LinkedIn, on YouTube, in the forum. Or if you aren't using any of those, head on over to Instagram, shoot me a DM, let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions to see if this is a good fit for you because I want to make sure that it is. I don't want anybody to enroll in this program that doesn't feel like it's going to be a good fit for them. So if you've got those questions, let me know, shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer. But with that, this is how we become burnout proof. Stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm probably going to be